Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah.
Hare Krishna, everybody. We would like to take this opportunity to once again welcome His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu and Her Grace Nirakula Mataji to our home. I would like to just briefly take a couple of minutes to share something because on many events which Prabhuji is going through, I don't think I'll have an opportunity to speak, but since this is happening at Nitai Gaur Nataraj's home, so I thought I'll share that. We got in touch with Prabhuji through a wonderful friend of ours, His Grace Mukharabin Prabhu. In a transit flight traveling to Vrindavan, we met in Turkey, of all the places, in Istanbul. I was on the airport with my wife and two children, and I saw Mukharabin Prabhu with very simple devotee, with talking to somebody and preaching and giving out books as he sat on a table. And that immediately my attention went there, and I really wanted to know who this devotee is. So the moment he finished with those people, I said, Hare Krishna Prabhu, and we exchanged conversations, and I told my wife, and then that was the first time actually, in all honesty, we had heard about Vaisesika Prabhu, and this was last year October in Kartik when we were traveling to India. And Mukharavinda Prabhu said, I'm just going to serve my Guru Maharaj in Govardhan. I said, that's very nice. So even after hearing, we couldn't have the opportunity to hear of a class or hear from Prabhu while we were in Vrindavan. We came back, and second day of coming back to London, because sometimes you go to Dham and you still want to be connected with Dham. So we were on Vrindavan.tv trying to look up some lectures. Just every day we were catching up. And one fine morning a lecture came up, Srimad Bhagavatam by His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu. I said to my wife, I think it's the same Prabhu which Mukharabin Prabhu's Guru Maharaj, let's listen to him. So we put on the lecture, and I couldn't go anywhere after that lecture, and I ran up to her and said, I feel something special after hearing this lecture, and I think we should start hearing to Vaisesika Prabhu. And very soon after that, we wrote to him and got connected with him over a Skype call. And one thing led to another. Before we know, we were in Jagannath Puri and Mayapur taking their association. And that was a life-changing experience for all four of us, actually. It was a very nice experience. So all I want to say is that I'm extremely, extremely fortunate that you're here with us, Prabhuji and Mataji. There cannot be anything bigger than this for us, at least in this lifetime and probably in many lifetimes. And one of the things which really struck me for personally, when I hear from Prabhuji, although sometimes Prabhuji reads various scriptures and various books, but sometimes when he's not reading and when he's just speaking in the lectures, this is I can say very profoundly, only one realization which I felt. Prabhuji, I could only feel when he only speaks Srila Prabhupada's purports, because he's all the time absorbed in Srila Prabhupada's books. So that's something really attracted me to him. And of course his humility, simplicity. So I'm very fortunate, and I'm sure all of you are also very happy. So thank you for coming and some of you have taken the day off here to come all the way from your home for this opportunity. And we have a Mahasangha later on this evening as well. So some exciting events coming up. So let's put our hands together for 3 loud Haribols for both of them. Haribol! Haribol! Haribol!
So in describing the process of pure devotional service, our acharyas, headed by Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, speak about sadhana. And sad is the root of this word, which means to perfect something. And then after sadhana, there's also the word sadhya, which means the goal of one's practice. And there's also the word sadhu, or someone who's engaged in practice, or the sadhaka. So the sad word is very common. And the exciting prospect of being a human being is that one can adjust one's life as needed or wanted at any time. You don't have to wait. All you need is knowledge and practice. If you have these two things, you can change the trajectory of your life immediately by taking them up. And it doesn't have to be abrupt, as we'll see in a minute. I'm going to speak about 5 basic principles, or I'll call them secrets because that's more intriguing, of strong sadhana. And so one aspect is to remember your basics. In any discipline, basics are most important. And you can't skip over the basics and then expect to become a master at something. But every master at some point has started from basic level and practiced diligently and carefully. My Mridanga teacher always tells me to slow down and play simply but well at first, and then later on you can speed up and you can do more things. So I like to keep this in mind, that every day I have my basics that I cover, because life does have its various distractions, and it may call us at certain times to do things that draw us away from sadhana more than we'd like to. But if you take it upon yourself to define what your basics are, that level at which you won't go lower, you'll stay at that level no matter what happens. Even if there's an emergency or some change in plans, you'll still be able to keep up your basics. And if you feel like you're covering your basics every day, you'll feel motivated and satisfied. This is one of the great secrets in any practice, but especially devotional service, is to cover your basics on a regular basis. And from the book called Our Family Business, strong sadhana means a proper attitude. Whatever one does or wherever one goes, one's attitude is important. It is said that your attitude determines your altitude in life. And some say, even more forcefully, attitude is everything. Have you ever heard that? Attitude is everything? Say yes. Yes. Okay. Attitude is the way we think and feel about something, an outlook that determines the way we act. Srila Prabhupada writes about the importance of attitude in practicing devotional service. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. That's from the Nectar of Instruction. So what is the ideal attitude for the practitioner eager to advance in devotional service? Prabhupada uses 3 adjectives. He uses it in various places, but I've put them in one place. And I saw someone at the Sadhu Sangha retreat with it on a sweatshirt. Put the 3 words: strict, serious, and sincere. Strict, serious, and sincere. He mentions these about the attitude of devotional service. One should be strict, one should be serious, and sincere. And I've strung them together so you can wear it as a bracelet or a necklace around your neck. These 3 items: strictness, seriousness, and sincereness. And if you keep these in mind when you're practicing, then your basic sadhana will become extremely effective. To be strict means to be rigorous with oneself and following one's chosen method of practice. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, for example, was so strict in his daily routine that Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita compares his devotional practices to lines on stone. So I've observed that the most effective of all practitioners are those who keep strict practice. And for instance, I have a friend that I see all the time, shows up on time for programs, sits down to chant his japa at the same time, and doesn't get up and move away till he's finished. Of course, everyone's on a different schedule, but you have to find your kind of strictness and stick to it. Don't be diverted. When you're doing your practice, stay with it and turn off everything else that might distract you. Remember this lines in stone, that someone might suggest, let's do something else. But I have my basics, I finish my basics. This is strictness. You do it no matter what else happens. Serious means that during one's practice one is thoughtful and attentive to the details. It also means that one does not back down from doing the needful to attain one's goal, even in the face of temptation, distraction, or calamity. And the word sincere comes from the Latin sincerus, which means clean, pure, free from pretense or deceit, proceeding from genuine feelings. To be sincere in one's practice of devotional service means to accept and follow Krishna's directives without envy or ulterior motive. Srila Prabhupada describes the attitude of the sincere devotee in his purport to Bhagavad Gita 3.7. Quote, instead of becoming a pseudo-transcendentalist for the sake of wanton living and sense enjoyment, it is far better to remain in one's own business and execute the purpose of life, which is to get free from material bondage and enter into the kingdom of God. A sincere person who follows this method is far better situated than the false pretender who adopts show bottle spiritualism to cheat the innocent public. A sincere sweeper in the street is far better than the charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. Who knows what a show bottle is? Do you know what a show bottle means? In the medical stores, Prabhupada explains, there is a giant bottle and they put it in the window. And inside, there's no medicine. There's just colored water. So they'll put a little red dye in that, mix it up, and they put it in the window. But it's got the bottle, and inside there's nothing really significant. It's just there for show. So this is called a show bottle. They put it in the window just as a way to attract you to come in and buy something. But the bottle itself doesn't have any real value. Just the effect is there. So, what do you think a show bottle is in devotional service? What would you say? Somebody who is a show bottle, doing show bottle devotional practice. You have to work with me now.
Someone who's outwardly showing to be a devotee, but inwardly still attached to material.
Someone who's outwardly showing to be a devotee, but inwardly being attached to something.
Material activities.
Perfect.
And not being sincere.
That's very good. So this is an example of being insincere. Actually, the word sincere comes from this Latin word which means without wax. Isn't that interesting? Do you know what it means? In previous ages when marble became very popular and it was taken out of the mines, the most expensive and valuable marble was that without any lines in it. Those are little cracks, imperfections. So what some merchants did, they would take the inferior marble out and then they would fill it with wax, the little cracks, so you couldn't see them and you'd think it was expensive marble. And then they'd sell it for the higher price. Then when people would utilize that marble when it became very hot, all the wax would melt out. And you see, oh, I was cheated. I just have the inferior marble. So how do you think that relates to the practice of devotional service? How would you say the difference between sincere and insincere? Yes, Paula? Go ahead. You're amongst friends here. Anyone?
You know when they say that when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Yeah, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And without pretense. Pretense means I try to show myself as something that I'm not. I try to cover up for my faults to show that I'm externally, I express that I'm actually an advanced devotee, and I'm afraid to show my faults to the world. So, in a way, sincerity means just to be honest and admit the level that you're at now. It's okay. It's better to be sincere and just be honest. Don't make a pretense, because when you admit your faults and you talk about them with advanced devotees, you can overcome them. And no need to show yourself as something you're not. Can you see how that relates to the example of the wax and the meaning of sincere? Say yes. Thank you. Okay. So, another point about attitude. As attitude is an important point to talk about it because it's something we can change. If we have an attitude, it directs the way we work in the world and the way we interact with other people and the way we practice our devotional service. Another aspect of attitude is helplessness. If you consider yourself to be helpless, and this is the main secret in practicing devotional service, is don't think that you're the cause of your advancement in devotional service. Although we should try, we should be strict, serious, and sincere. At the same time, we should feel helpless. This is something that Queen Kunti brings out in her prayers. She says, Janmaishvarya Shuta Shribir Edamana Madapuman Naivarhat Yavidatum Vai Tvama Kinchana Gocharam. And that is that if you think that you have some qualification for devotional service, and she names ways in which people might think that they're very special. So Janma means you come from a high birth. Aishvarya means you have some opulence in your life. And like you drive a 108 Peugeot. There's a 107 and there's a 108, right? The 108's the more advanced model, I think. And if you drive a 108 Peugeot, you might think, hey, I drive 108 Peugeot, he drives this 107 Peugeot, I'm something special. Shruta means learned. So sometimes in our Krishna consciousness movement, we've seen people go off and learn Sanskrit, and then they start thinking, oh, I know everything, because I've learned a little Sanskrit, I'm a great scholar. And they might fall away from devotional service. People who think I already know something are very slow to learn anything new. I met a man the other day when we were going door to door distributing Bhagavad Gitas, and I knocked on his door and he came out and he looked and he saw the Bhagavad Gita and he looked at me and he goes, I already know everything. He said, I know everything. And I said, fantastic, I'm going to go get my friends, I want them to meet you. I don't know if they've ever met somebody who knows everything. On the other hand, Queen Kunti says, if you think, I don't know anything, and you approach Krishna in that mood, and this is called akinchana. Everyone say akinchana. Kinchan means something, and if you put an akar in front, akinchana, say again. You perform akinchana bhakti. It means I feel I have no qualification at all. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks about this in his prayers, the Shikshashtakam, that you should approach Krishna with this humble feeling that I don't know anything. I don't have any qualification. So this is an attitude. And if you keep this attitude, then counterintuitively, you'll become very popular wherever you go. Because there are lots of people walking around thinking, I know everything, and I'm going to teach it to everybody else. And they have a lot of competition because everyone else thinks they know everything too. But if you adopt the attitude of being humble and akinchana, I don't have any qualification, then naturally, Queen Kunti says, you can call out to Krishna with sincere feeling. So this is an attitude change that you can make for the practice of devotional service. Next, in secret, in the process of strong practice of bhakti, is to be vigilant. And the simple tenet of being vigilant means to show up. Even if you feel yourself unqualified, just show up. Show up for your practice, and show up when there's Krishna Katha going on. This means vigilant. Be there. Oftentimes, if you're just there, is 50% you get a 50% advantage over everybody else, just to start with, because you show up. I saw that in school. I went to school and I saw that a lot of people didn't show up for class. And even though they were way smarter than me, because I showed up at all the classes, teacher noticed that I was there, showed special deference because I actually attended. And not only that, just by being there, I learned a lot of things that I wouldn't have if I just took the book home and tried to learn it on my own. So make sure to show up for things. Don't assume that, oh, I've done it before, I don't need to be there. If you just be there, you'll be benefited, and in ways that you can't expect. If you show up for programs and you're just there, through the association, through the vibration that you're present for, you'll become advanced in devotional service. So be vigilant. Another aspect of strong sadhana is to be attentive. So attention is something that we have to notice. Am I being attentive? One of the great tricks of chanting japa. Who here chants japa? Japa means the way in which you become free from birth and sin. So ja means birth and pa means sin. It also means jaw. This is your jaw, right? And this is your paw. So jaw, paw. You have a jaw and you have a paw, because you use your jaw and you use your paw to chant on. So in japa, you're meant to practice attentiveness. And so here's a simple rule for being attentive when you chant. And that is, notice that you're chanting. What is the simple rule? Yes, because it's altogether possible to chant or hear in any aspect of bhakti. Chanting and hearing these are the two most important aspects. It's possible to do those without even noticing that you're doing it. You can chant and your mind can go somewhere else. It'll take a trip to the store, and then where else will it go?
So many places.
So to this former Soviet Union. Where else? Everywhere japa, it'll take a hike around the universe. On the other hand, if you just become aware that you're chanting, just that awareness is very powerful. This is attentive chanting. And notice, I'm chanting now, I'm chanting. Keep bringing your mind back to this understanding that I'm chanting, right now I'm chanting. And notice that you're chanting, so be attentive. And if you continually bring your mind back, this is the process of meditation on the japa. Just bring it back to the sound and be fully aware that you're chanting. And Krishna will do the rest because he's fully present in his name. The next is, am I going too fast? Are you getting all these points? Because there's going to be a quiz soon. The next is, your sadhana should be goal-oriented. Sometimes people tell me, oh, I'm just on a natural path. I don't count anything. I don't have any beads. I'm always chanting in my mind. Or even if they have beads, they have no counter beads to pull down and count how many rounds. Oh, I chant all the time, so it doesn't matter. This is not strong sadhana. Strong sadhana means to be goal-oriented. So the exemplars of devotional service in our line are the Goswamis of Vrindavan. And Srinivasacharya writes about them in one of his beautiful songs called the Prayers to the Six Goswamis. Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gananatibi Kalavasani Krita. And that is that the Goswamis every day counted. Sankhya means to count. Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gananatibi. Whatever they chanted, even how many times they bowed down to offer respects to the Vaishnavas, they counted that. And every day they kept track. How much am I doing? Because you're not the same person at night that you are in the morning. Why? Because when you go to sleep, your mind flies around the universe. It goes here, there, and everywhere, and you wake up, And your determination today may be different in 3 days. It may change. Is that possible? Have you ever made a determination that I'm going to lose weight? And then you're very determined for 4 or 5 days, 4 or 5 weeks, 4 or 5 months, and then suddenly you have association with somebody who eats all the time, and they put huge mounds of butter on everything, and then you start doing it too because you figure, well, what the heck? You just change. You drift from one place to another because that's the nature of this world, and the mind is very susceptible to association in this world. Krishna says in the Gita, Purusha prakritisto hi bhunkte prakriti jangunan karanam guna sangosya sadasadyoni janmasu. That whatever good or bad you have in this life, it's come to you because of your association. So you have to hold in place your practice through goals. You have to have a clear goal of how much you're going to do every day, and you have to count it. Now, if you don't have paper to write on, you have to make a notch on the wall. If you don't have walls, if you're living in a cave and you don't have any rocks to scratch the wall with, you put it on your arm. You have to put it somewhere. You have to mark down how much am I doing every day, and you have to have a clear idea, this is what I'm shooting for. Last night I gave a talk at, what's his name's house? Hari Kirtan Prabhu's house, which is also known as the Vaikuntha Dham. And there at Hari Kirtan Vaikuntha Dham, we talked about the importance of keeping steady schedule of reading. Because this is not ordinary reading. Children, when they grow up, if they read a lot, they become very learned just naturally by reading. They start knowing about history, and they know how to articulate the language properly by reading. It's a human activity, a highly respected and age-tested process that if you read, in fact, all leaders are readers. People who read become leaders. Now, if you apply that in the spiritual sense, you'll become advanced very quickly if you read regularly, especially from the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is our basic text, and some people skip over the Gita. Oftentimes, if we come from India, we'll think, my mother knew Bhagavad Gita, my grandmother memorized Bhagavad Gita, and I grew up with Bhagavad Gita. Oftentimes I show the Bhagavad Gita to our Indian friends, and they say, yeah, we know Bhagavad Gita. Have you read Bhagavad Gita? No, but my mother knows Bhagavad Gita. My grandmother memorized Bhagavad Gita. And do you know anything about it? He said, do your work. Just do your work. But that's not the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is Krishna. There's no difference between the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. And there's no difference between Krishna speaking to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and you sitting down to read Bhagavad Gita. You'll be as close to Krishna as Arjuna was. It's so astounding. It's such a wonderful phenomenon. And this is something that we're meant to experience every day. You have to do it every day in order to stay steady in spiritual life. So to do that, you have to have some goal. Now I'll teach you something about goal setting that will change your life. Are you ready?
Yes.
Here's how you set goals. Decide what you want and write it down. Please repeat.
Decide what you want and write it down.
Correct. Now, once you write it down, it goes from the subtle to the gross, because I have some desire in my mind. I want to move ahead in my spiritual life, and I'd like to be more steady in my practice. So decide what you're going to do, and then put it in your book or write it on your computer. Then it starts to manifest in your life, and you'll feel that you have something to shoot for. The human mind is like a heat-seeking missile. Do you know what a heat-seeking missile is? It's a kind of missile. It's made by the military. It senses heat. So they shoot these missiles after jets. Jets will be flying through the air, and they put out a lot of heat because jet engines burn high-octane fuel. And so they shoot a missile up, and it doesn't matter which way the jet goes because it's putting out heat. The missile goes behind it and follows it up, down, around, until it hits its target. So in the same way, when we set goals as human beings, our mind will immediately start seeking that goal the second you write it down. And even when you're sleeping, it will go after it. But you have to be responsible enough to write it down. What is your goal? So this strong practice of bhakti means you've made clear goals. Get yourself a book or a little section in your computer, wherever it is that you write down what your goals are in devotional service. And as soon as you start writing them there, you'll feel invigorated in your spiritual life. And then you're going to know how well you're doing. There's an app you can get, which is called Habit List. Say Habit List.
Habit List.
Yeah, Habit List. I forget how much it costs, just a couple dollars, I think. But on it, you can list all the habits that you're trying to create in your devotional life. And then each day, if you're asking yourself to do it every day, all you have to do is push the button and it tells that you finished that habit for the day. Or if it's for the week or the month or whatever it is. This is a way to stay goal-oriented in your practice of devotional service. Before I go into the next ones, I'm going to take a few reflections. Anything that you heard so far that you found useful or interesting, just reflect back what it was. And those of you who are watching online, you can type it in, and our camera crew is standing by to read your reflections and to give them to the audience here. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Paula. Go ahead.
I like when you talk about attitude.
Attitude. She likes when we talk about attitude. Does that second microphone work? Because let's use that. And the reason we're using the microphone is because we're broadcasting this. There are devotees who are joining us from other places around the world on this live streaming broadcast. And they can't hear you unless you use the microphone. Otherwise, until we get the microphone to work, I'll repeat what you're saying.
Okay. Because you talked about approaching spiritual life with attitude.
Yes.
Because we do that in other things in life, like you wake up and you're like, oh, I have to go to work. And then you put your uniform and that person...
So she was saying that there's a point at which we have to adjust our attitude when we practice devotional service. And just as when you put on your special attitude when you go to work, so in the same way when you approach your devotional practice, you're saying you put on your special attitude. Thank you very much. Attitude is everything. What else? What other things did you hear so far? Anything you heard, reflect it back.
Strict, sincere, and serious.
Yes, strict, serious, and sincere. Everyone say that. Strict, serious, and sincere. Strict, serious, sincere.
Strict, serious, sincere.
Yeah, you can get it. There's a sweatshirt you can get. It says strict, serious, and sincere. Thomas Haribol was wearing that at the Sadhu Sangha. Yes. Why did you like that? Does it work?
Yes,
Try it.
It's just the only thing that it somehow doesn't work together. So if you don't use it, just please turn it off. Then Guru Maharaj can continue to speak.
I liked it because it's
Okay, I'll repeat what you're saying. This is getting a little too unwieldy.
we should be strict in whatever goals we are setting. We should be strictly following them and
Yes.
sincerely doing it, not just doing it. Do it seriously and sincerely.
Yes, strict. Do you remember the example about strictness that I gave from the Chaitanya Charitamrita? It was about a particular practitioner named Raghunath Das Goswami, and he was known that his practice was like lines in stone. When you mention the lines in stone, then they're fixed, right? If you stay fixed in your practice, and you know that people in any discipline who stay fixed in their practice, even if it's a simple practice, they become expert at it. It's the same in devotional service. Strictness is very important. And you also mentioned sincerity. This attitude of sincerity means just be open about your faults. Don't try to cover it all up. Admit whatever mistakes, whatever faults, shortcomings you have, it's fine in devotional life. And start from where you are now. Don't try to make a pretense that I'm a great practitioner. Krishna sees everything in us anyway. Thank you very much. What else did you hear?
I have a few from the internet.
Okay, a few from the internet. Go right ahead.
I'll just say it.
Okay.
Sunita writes in, Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, we are very susceptible to association. We drift from what we are practicing by just changing the association. And
Yes, such a great point. We're subject to our association because we're very tiny. We're tiny living entities. We describe Kesha Grashata Bhagasha Sharamsha Shadrishatmakaha Jiva Sukstro Sarupoyam Sankyatito Hi Chitkanaha. Chitkana means we're a tiny particle of consciousness. And Krishna is the supreme consciousness. We're the same in quality, but the quantity is that we're tiny and Krishna is great. So we're susceptible to our environment. So you can always remember this, that whomever you associate with, you're going to become like that. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advocated that we be very careful about our association. In fact, when he was asked, what is a Vaishnav? He said, Asa Sangha Tyag E Vaishnavachar, which means a Vaishnav is somebody who avoids bad association. That's pretty simple definition, isn't it? Thank you.
Chintamani Dasi writes, attitude. I depend on Krishna. I am a Kinchana. I have no good qualities or knowledge, but Krishna is very merciful. Be goal-oriented, set goals and Krishna consciousness and steps to achieve it. Lines in stone.
Thank you, Chintamani Dham. A lot in there. She's listening carefully. She's very strict, serious, and sincere about her listening.
Balaram Rajput says the goal is one which should be our passion. Mahendar Tanwar says extremely useful. People put this goal setting in practice in their work/career life, and that works. They can do miracles to progress in spiritual path if one applies with the three S's that you just explained.
Yeah, so this is a nice point he makes, and Paula made this also. The same kind of endeavor that you make for your career in the material world, and you do have to put out a lot of energy for that, don't you?
Yes.
Like what? What kind of things do you have, what sacrifices do you have to make in order to move ahead in your academic or professional career, or both? What would you say, yes?
You have to put a CV together, which takes a long time.
Put a CV together?
Yeah.
That's like a resume. You have to put your resume together. Yes. Yes.
I'm going to say then you might have to go through a vigorous interview process.
Interview process, yeah. What other kind of things for a professional academic career?
Even thereafter also, this is up to the point of getting employment. But if we have to do the career progression throughout our service career, then sometimes family has to make the sacrifices. They have to make sacrifice. If my spouse is well qualified, she can get the employment, but she will forgo that because I have to see my progression and she has to give me the country.
Yeah, so there may be family sacrifices. So a tag team, one person can get ahead in their academic career, somebody else takes care of another aspect of the family life. All these kinds of things require great endeavor, right?
Even parents have to do a lot of sacrifice even for you when you are making your career progression.
Parents make great sacrifice, yeah, for their children to make their academic move.
Incidentally, just on the sidelines,
Hold that close to your mouth.
Mahendra Prabhu is our Sangha member. He is now based in Dubai. Earlier he has been attending here.
Everyone say Haribol to Mahendra. Haribol! Thank you very much.
There's a couple from
Mandra Ghosh, they must be watching from somewhere nearby. This habit apps are very powerful. It helped me to keep on track with the habits I am working on every day. And then there's one from Dr. Raman.
Yes, you can use all technology to increase your help with your sadhana. We have counter beads. Those are quaint and traditional. But you can also use electronic means too, things to remind you, ways in which to stay strict in your sadhana. So utilize all these things. This is called yukta vairagya. There are lots of tools and techniques that people use to get ahead in their professional academic careers. Use all those same techniques and all the same tools to get ahead in your devotional practices. Yes?
And one more, Mandra Ghosh wrote in for Dr. Raman. The mind is easily affected by association.
Oh boy, that's an important one to remember, because we become who we associate with. Just remember that, and be very vigilant about your association. It's one of the aspects of advancing in devotional service. Yes, please, Paula.
The keep to the basics.
Yes.
Even at work, we have to, even if you don't feel like it, you have to keep to at least a few basics if you want to give some service, quality service. And also in relation to attitude, helplessness. Even
Yes.
at work, sometimes you realize, oh, I'm not qualified to do this, and you have to recognize you need help, or
Yes.
with your attitude towards us.
Nice crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah, in every sphere of life, if you're the know-it-all, who's going to help you? But if you are helpless and are open to taking in new knowledge, new skills from people who know more than you, then you'll advance very quickly. And especially in spiritual life, this is recommended, that you take this attitude. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, one should be murkha. One should always remain a fool before one's spiritual master. Not that you act like a fool, but you should feel yourself to be without knowledge. In fact, this, the great Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, highly learned scholars, they spoke 8 languages, perfect in Sanskrit, had studied Srimad Bhagavatam again and again. And when they came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they said, we're the most fallen, we don't know anything. And one of them said, I don't even know who I am. Please tell me who I am. Please inform me. Start on the basic level like that. This is sound spiritual practice. Thank you very much. Good reflections. Excellent. Yes?
My apologies, I slightly came late. Maybe I would have missed good part of the discussion. The last 3 words. Out of that one, I am picking up that the sincerity. When we start practicing this thing, say Mahamantra, recitation of Mahamantra regularly, we spend around 1.5 to 2 hours in a day on this activity, and a couple of hours we go in for sleep. Rest, of course, 12-14 hours we do our routine activities. It so often happens that when you start doing this Mahamantra practice or otherwise any devotional, the whole day's thoughts will suddenly start coming in your mind when you are trying to do Mahamantra with full sincerity, with full concentration, but it often gets disturbed with the rest of the thoughts throughout the day. How to overcome this challenge?
The way to overcome the challenge is to be attentive, and tell them what attentive means. Be aware that you're chanting. Because when you go into the mind, you can be doing one thing. For instance, you can be riding on a train and miss your stop because you're reading a book, right? There's a way in which you can be reading a book and not actually be noticing the words. Have you ever noticed that you read a whole paragraph and you go, I have no idea what I just read? Why? Because your mind was somewhere else. But if you're aware that you're reading, then you're actually noticing the words. You're noticing what's going on. So in a similar way, to be attentive, the simple formula is be aware that you're chanting. Bring your awareness back to the chanting, and Krishna will do the rest. If you simply keep aware, remain aware that you're chanting, don't let yourself become unaware of what you're doing, because that's possible to do that. Okay?
I have realized that if you chant loudly, then you are more concentrating in the chanting.
Yes, there's a good realization if you chant loudly. Yes. Ready for a little more? A few more? Okay. Hope there are a few more. Let's see. Yes. The next secret for strong sadhana is you should practice according to your personal capacity and taste. Personal capacity. Everyone has a personal capacity, just like birds. They fly in the sky as high as they're able to do. Some birds can fly very high, some birds stay closer to the ground, but the sky's unlimited, so who's to say which is better? The fact is, everyone starts their practice with a particular capacity. And Krishna says to Uddhava in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Swe Swe Adhikaraya Nishta Saguna Parikirtita, that if you go according to your capacity, it's a good quality. Don't try to imitate those who are doing more or compare yourself to those doing more. Do what you can do consistently, steadily over time, and what you have a taste for. And if you do that, then your capacity will increase. Naturally, it will increase. Now, viparya to dosha syad, the opposite is true, that if you do try to do more than your capacity, then this is what Krishna calls a dosha, it's a fault. Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments on this, and he said, your practice of bhakti is like climbing a ladder. You put your foot on the rung, and when you feel that it's secure, then you move to the next rung. And you have to keep moving. And he says there's two things that can happen. One is you run too fast. Your foot isn't securely on the rung and you can slip back. And the second is that you get on the rung but that you don't move forward. So he said don't move too fast and also don't move too slow. Because if you move too fast you'll slip, and if you move too slow then your progress will be distant. It'll take a long time to advance. So that means you have to be aware of the fact that you have a certain capacity and you have to see when it increases. And you also cannot claim that you're permanently unqualified. And sometimes people claim this. They say, I'm so fallen I can't advance. That's not true, because you're not your body or mind, you're a spirit soul. And all of the scriptures give advice to us based on the fact that we have the wherewithal to actually advance in devotional service. We all have the wherewithal to come to the highest stage of devotional service. So keep that in mind as well. Sometimes people say there's only selected souls that can become advanced. That's not true either. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krame Krame, if you start chanting Hare Krishna consistently and you follow these basic tenets of strict, serious and sincere devotional service, he said then step by step, krame krame means step by step, you will come to the highest stage of devotional service by the process of chanting Hare Krishna. So, according to capacity and according to taste. Now, taste means some people like a certain kind of sadhana more than others. There are certain basic practices that we all must do. For instance, it is a tenet of devotional service to follow the acharya. So our acharya, Srila Prabhupada, has given us some basic practices. The only thing he really insisted on, the only positive injunction, was that you have to chant at least 16 rounds a day. There's no other thing that he said you have to do. There's things he said don't do. But those are to help you keep steady on your chanting of 16 rounds of Hare Krishna. So, strong sadhana means to have a proper attitude. It means that it's vigilant, it's regularly performed, it's attentive, it's goal-oriented, according to capacity and taste. And the last paragraph, 2 paragraphs in this section, says, start the regulation habit. Just as we develop bad habits by gradually slipping into them. Raise your hand if this sounds familiar at all. Come on, everyone raise your hand or you make me feel bad. Just as we develop bad habits by gradually slipping into them, this is how bad habits start, gradually slipping in, little bit, little degree, we can develop good habits by voluntarily accepting discipline. That's good news for humans. There's a newsletter called Good News for Humans. And it starts with the fact that you can develop good habits by voluntarily accepting discipline. Here's a recipe for developing good habits. Decide which good devotional habits you want to start and write them down. Cultivate them each day until they become a natural part of your life. And Srila Prabhupada calls this technique getting practiced automatically. That was a unique turn of phrase that Prabhupada used. Get practiced automatically. Human beings can make voluntary life changes. We call these VLCs. Everyone say VLC. VLC. So you have to have a list of your VLCs. What are your voluntary life changes? You see, you'll be forced to make changes anyway by time. Time is a very powerful force. And you may say, I'm going to keep this, and then it gets changed. It gets taken away by time. But what you can do is preemptively make changes. These are called voluntary life changes. And if they're based on Scripture, then you're going to be making spiritual advancement. One who does so based on the order of the spiritual master, Scripture, and elevated devotees will taste strong, uncommon confidence, clear knowledge, and happiness. And I've given a quote at the very end of this chapter that says, one should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the Scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. Final reflections or questions. And when you use the microphone, hold it right under your lip so it's almost touching. Go ahead, Nirkula. Giriraj Kripa Prabhu.
I would like to ask, connected with the show bottle.
Show bottle, yes.
That how, if we realize in ourselves this kind of hypocrisy,
yes,
then and how what we should practice, what kind of practices that can help us to overcome this hypocrisy.
One is to get association with those with whom we can be honest and admit our faults. And I've seen this before, devotees, we've talked about this just recently with some devotees who said, I could develop a bad habit, what should I do? And find a partner that you can talk to. You have to have at least one person in your devotional life that you can admit your faults to. And that person should not be a gossiper either. Somebody you trust that's not going to walk around and tell everybody what happened. But somebody confidential. This is called Guhyam Akyati Prichyati, and it's mentioned in the Nectar of Instruction by Rupa Goswami as one of the ways in which you have loving exchanges with devotees. So sometimes very advanced devotees fall down from the practice of devotional service, and here's how. Because someone may say, they were never advanced in the first place. I disagree. They were advanced, but there's a narcissist that can come in and overcome even an advanced devotee. So what happens is they become advanced, and then people give them all kinds of appreciation and respect because they're advanced. Because it's very attractive to see somebody who's actually disciplined in devotional service. They're actually following and they're getting something. People become amazed and they're happy to greet such a person. So then that person, because of a previous contact with material nature, may have some kind of residue of material desire within the heart. Or he or she may pick it up from the environment by association. And then it starts to grow. But because the person now is respected as being very advanced, he or she then thinks, well, I don't want to disillusion anybody by admitting my faults. And it's not necessary for such a person then to go out in public and say, these are all my faults. However, that devotee should have at least one person that he or she can go to and say, by the way, here's my anartha. It just came up. I don't know where it came from. We don't know where these things come from. They do come up though. And you have to be able to have a catharsis. And and express it to another devotee in such a way that you can unburden yourself and that devotee can know. And I know advanced devotees, and this is why they're advanced, and when they continue to advance, that do this. They get together with God brothers or God sisters that they trust, or at least one. And it's a very difficult thing, isn't it, to admit one's faults? Is it? Yes. Yeah, to admit one's faults and actually say, okay, I know everyone thinks I'm like this, but here's something. What do you think? And that person then can help you talk about it and deal with it. And when you bring it to the light of consciousness, whether it's anartha you're hiding. So one day I was driving home from the temple and just minding my own business, chanting Hare Krishna, and then I saw anartha came up. And then, everyone okay? Okay. Anartha came up, and then I watched the process of my mind, and my mind said, there's two choices. You can expose this anartha to the light of day by telling to somebody and bringing it out, or you can hide it. Just put it away. Don't let anybody see it. And this is what's known in the 10 offenses against the chanting of Hare Krishna, which you all have probably recite regularly, as maintaining material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on the matter. So, what does maintaining mean? It means it's a lot of trouble to maintain. Anybody here maintain something or someone? What? What do you maintain? The house. It takes a lot of work, doesn't it? I can't believe it. I live in a little room, and every 3 days I looked at it and said, I just cleaned this 3 days ago, and now it's a mess. And what else do you have to maintain? Children. Do they take maintenance at all? Say yes. Emphatically say yes. Yeah, they take so much maintenance. In fact, for the first 16 years, 24 years, they take minute-to-minute maintenance to see that. So maintaining is a difficult thing. Now here's the thing. It says maintaining material desires. That takes a lot of work. And that's the way in which one might stay connected to the material world, keep that in. So don't put it away in a little box and hide it, but bring it out. And if you can't bring it out, if you don't have the strength, I might not have the strength to admit that I'm a hypocrite. But what you can do then is bring that little box of anarthas out before you chant your japa. And take the lock off it. At least take the lock off. Undo the combination. And then tell Krishna, Krishna, I'm too weak to open this box and show you what's inside, or show anybody else what's inside. Please do me a favor. Come in and open it and expose it to the world, or do whatever you need to do. Take it away. I give you permission to come in. Or even if you can't open the lock, you say, Krishna, you're an expert thief. You're known as a thief. So you come in and steal it one way or another. I'm so weak, I can't even open the box. I can't even admit that it's there, but you know it's there. So I'm going to chant, I'm going to close my eyes, and you please sneak in and try to take it away from me. Somewhere you have to start to admit to a devotee, to Krishna, to bring it to the light of consciousness. And the amazing thing is that those who are vulnerable and actually show their faults become heroes. They actually become the ones that everyone respects, and they go, this is a real person. This is actually an advanced person. And those who remain show bottle by not being simple and admitting, okay, I'm like this. Everyone knows it. Living entities envy each other anyway. And any reason they can find for somebody being hypocritical, and they're like, they're phony. But when somebody's just real and open and honest, people gravitate towards them and they think, this is wonderful. So one way or another, you have to find a way to bring it out in a confidential setting or to Krishna, and that will help. Imho. Yes?
Vaisesika Seva is asking the name of the book and where can she buy it. I believe she's in Australia.
Hi, I'm Vaisesika Dasa. This is Our Family Business. Our Family Business is a BBT publication. It's not. although I wrote the book, I gave it to the BBT, and now it's available from BBTs anywhere. So she's in Australia. You can call the Australian BBT and get a copy there, or any of the local temples, and if they don't have it, they can order it from their BBT. It's a BBT book available all over the world. It's also available at Amazon.com. You can order the hard copy or the electronic version from the Amazon website. Hare Krishna. Shameless pitch, but it's not my book, so okay. Go ahead. What else? Anything else?
Vandra Ghosh likes the good news for human beings. Humans can develop.
That's the name of our newsletter. Good news for human beings.
Oh, and someone's asking why do we have different tilak on?
Yeah, today the different tilak is because this morning there was a fire ceremony. We celebrated the initiation of a devotee, very sincere devotee, who's taken vows. And when we have that ceremony, we also light a sacred fire in which we invite Agni to come, who accepts offerings and on behalf of the Lord and delivers them. And some of the offerings are when we make the vows, and then we offer grains in the fire. And after the fire is done, the priest takes some of the ashes and mixes them with the ghee that was the offering, and then puts a little black dot from that. So when you see somebody that has this black dot, you can show Paula as our model here. There's Paula wearing this black dot on her forehead. That means she attended the fire yoga. It's kind of like in some countries when you vote, they put a little sticker on you, say, I voted. They do that in America. So when you went to the yajna, you get one of these dots on your head. I already took a bath, so mine came off.
Some of us, we watched that morning program over TV.
You watched it over TV?
Yeah, and YouTube also.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
It was a good exciting event for us as well.
Yes. Yes, it's a special day when somebody takes vows, because when you take a vow, it changes the course of the universe. Because normally people act according to the force of material nature and according to their past karma. But when you take the instructions of Krishna and the spiritual master and the sadhus, and then you mold your life around that and say, I'm going to make a vow based on what they've said to do, then you're making a stand, a righteous and noble stand. And when you do that, you are taking information from outside of the... So the universe is a closed system. You know what that means in mathematics. It's a closed system. And from outside the closed system comes in knowledge and influence from a higher level. And if you embrace that and you make vows based on that, then it's real news. The news we hear about every day in the cycle of production that goes through television and newspapers and things like that, it's not really news. It's just rechurning of the modes of material nature. So these vows are very powerful. And this morning, this devotee, her new name is Chitralekha Saki Devi Dasi. And she came all the way from France to get initiated. That's how determined she was. Not only that, she's quadriplegic. When she was a child, she dove into a river and she hit the bottom and broke her neck. So she's been paralyzed for most of her life. As Nirkula was pointing out during the initiation ceremony, she's become a famous consummate artist. She paints with her mouth. But beyond that, she's become a great devotee. She's very dedicated to the process of devotional service, so much so that she has a strict, serious, and sincere sadhana. And also she has a very powerful attitude, and that is that everything is Krishna's arrangement, and I'm simply Krishna's humble servant. So that's what the black dot was. Now we have 2 minutes left. Yes? Giriraj Kripa.
Thank you. I would like to ask Guru Maharaj how we can know from ourselves, about ourselves, that what we do is not too much and not have this balance with what you said?
Well, when you're eating, how do you know when you've eaten too much or too little? Do you have a sense? I mean, do you have a sense when you're hungry? I was thinking about this the other day. I was just feeling hungry, and I thought, I'm hungry. And say, how do I know that? How do I know when I'm hungry? I just do. I just know, right? And so when you're eating, you also start thinking, okay, I'm full now, and if I eat any more, then I'm not going to be able to digest for a long time. So in a similar way, there's an intuitive sense, and there's also a good guidance. One of the ways in which we advance in devotional service is keeping ourselves under good guidance. And if you collect mentors, there are people who are devotees who are expert in various areas. And if you make good association with these different mentors, you can triangulate and you can find out from them, how am I doing? You can ask, how do you think I'm doing? Because people will notice. And if you ask people to look out for you and watch how you're doing and notice your movements and how you're conducting yourself, you can get a lot of good feedback in that way too. But Krishna's there in the heart. He also helps us to understand when's the time to make a move and when's the time to stay steady, things like that. Yes?
I have questions. Not so relevant. Fan the spark, where does this comes from? We've heard so much fan the spark, and there's a website fan the spark. Where did this idea came from?
It came from Prabhupada. That was Prabhupada's mood about everything is fan the spark. And that's what Sankirtan means. Find a spark and fan it. Even if it's a tiny little spark, if you fan it, then all of a sudden it turns into a conflagration. So that's our mood in devotional service. So we called our website Fan the Spark. And that's why. It's a way of life. Fan the spark in yourself, fan the spark in others. It's a way of interacting with the world and with other people. And that's the way that Krishna interacts, because he's always trying to enthuse us in different ways. This is in the Gayatri mantras that we chant. There's one word called prachodayat, which means encouragement. Krishna's trying to encourage us unlimitedly in different ways. So this is fanning the spark.
What is the last word of Gayatri?
Prachodayat. That's right. So we came together today to discuss the secrets of strong sadhana. And we may have taken away a point or two. And if you apply any of these tenets, even if you take one point and you just apply it as soon as possible, then you'll notice positive change in your life. And when you apply discipline and change of attitude and all these various methods to spiritual life in order to please Krishna, you'll attain supreme happiness and the ultimate goal of life. As Rishabhadeva says in his teachings, Nayam deho bhajam nriloke kashtan kamam arhate vidbhujanye tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shudyad yasmad brahma saukyam tvanantam. And that is that don't be like animals. Animals just run free and do whatever they want. But instead, take the advantage of human life for this thing, which is called tapo divyam, divine austerity. Not austerity to get ahead materially, but austerity to get ahead spiritually. That's exciting. And you can, it's okay to increase that unlimitedly throughout your life. Try to pace yourself so that you can increase your divine austerities throughout your life. And then you'll become, according to Rishabhadeva, tapo divyam putraka, you'll become purified, yena sattvam shudyad yasmad brahma saukyam tvanantam. He said, you will become unlimitedly happy by doing this. So it's a good idea to perform divine austerity. And find out what that is by reading Prabhupada's books, by getting the teachings from his students, and when you apply that in your life, even a modicum of application, you'll notice it for yourself. And then you'll become, if you continue, you'll become greedy for it. And that's a sign of real spiritual health. You get an appetite for divine austerity. You want more. And the more you get that divine austerity in your life, the practices of devotional service, the more you'll get a taste for it. And then you'll see for yourself that this is the goal of life. Krishna will reveal himself to those who are practicing like that. Gaur Premanande Haribo.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.